Welcome back to another episode of Sports Medicine on Tap. My name is Brandon Align. I'm sitting at a full Neck of the Woods Brewing Company on a joyful Tuesday evening with my good friend Dr. Frey. Dr. Frey, how you doing?
I'm spectacular, but not nearly as good as half of this crowd.
Man, I tell you what, right now in the Neck of the Woods, it seems like one of the youth soccer programs wrapped up their season, and they're concluding it with a little holiday party here with all the parents and the kids.
Credit to the parents in full get-up.
Yeah, we got light-up sweaters, we got a tuxedo.
Yeah,
jacket and all.
Yeah, it's a very, very festive attire. Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
Very festive attire. It's that time of year.
Yeah,
and December just started.
And the winter is here. Holy cow!
Yeah, it's finally cold.
Yeah,
we're actually getting some good cold weather.
Yeah,
and quick preview of our main topic. We were talking about the winters here, and we're talking about a major injury that happened in the big blizzard game in Buffalo.
Lake effect snow.
Oh man, that thing is real. On Sunday night with Christian McCaffrey again.
Quick little side note. You know how that works or no? There's a general idea of what's going on with lake effect snow.
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll get into it anyway.
Yeah, why not?
Super cold weather like we had in Chicago, which is where I was for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great, man.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. We laid low with the new little guy and just had a very small, chill Thanksgiving, which is nice.
For us as well, spectacular. We visit my wife's aunt and uncle out there every year. My wife's uncle, he's like a chef. It's amazing. I know it's blasphemy. We have goose instead of turkey. It's the most amazing thing in the world.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, so super cold weather out in Chicago, goes across warm lakes, and it picks up a lot of moisture.
Mm-hmm.
Like it fills up with moisture, and then it gets to the land on the other side again. But because it's early in the season, because the lakes are warm, boom, tons of snow. And
so much snow.
Man, was it ever prevalent.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy for that
game was really wild. I mean, I think it's also really cool with the city of Buffalo, or the team, Buffalo Bills. They offer people like jobs to come to shovel the stadium out. Like 20.
Is it jobs? I think they just basically ask for volunteers.
Yeah, well, no, they were offering to pay like $20 an hour with like some ticket compensation and or food or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were a college student out in the area of Buffalo,
heck yeah.
How does that not sound like a great thing? Go shovel some snow, find a way to go to a football game, and sounds like a great time. And
amazing.
Bills Mafia is a faithful group of fans.
They love their Bills out there,
and their team is doing pretty good right now.
I think Baltimore still, they look like studs, right? And the Bills look like studs, and I guess the Lions are really, really good, and there's a few teams. The Eagles look amazing, right? The Bills, I don't know how anyone's going to beat them, and I actually don't understand how they're doing it. I think they have a good team. I would have guessed that last year's team was going to be better.
Yeah. Well, they don't like, from just a build standpoint, if you will, like they don't have that number one receiver anymore. Right. They lost Stephon Diggs, and you thought there would be a dip in production with that. Now Josh Allen's running a little bit more. He threw and caught a pass at the same play, like that crazy lateral play this weekend. But I mean, they ended up getting Amari Cooper, so they do have a big name, if you will.
That's a good point. Yeah,
receiver.
Well said.
But it's also those late acquisitions in the middle of the season are hard to kind of go with.
Really assimilate.
To get your groove going. So
speaking of late acquisitions, hard to do is having a challenging time assimilating. Deontay Johnson, what is going on in Baltimore?
Yeah, man, he's just not having a good time. Yeah. It's just, you think big name, he gets signed, and you think he'd be productive, and then just not out there.
Yeah, malcontent, man. Just get along with your teammates, do the right thing, be a good locker room guy, goes a long way, especially as you're adjusting.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's going to get another opportunity, right? Bateman got hurt again. Mm-hmm. A guy who had a really, really promising career coming out of college and just can't
catch a break.
Just like the 49ers.
Yeah, just like the 49ers are unbelievably snake bitten this year.
Just like the Sixers. We're just watching 30 seconds into this game tonight.
Drummond rolls his ankle within like minutes, and I think tonight, the Tuesday night game against the Pistons for the Sixers is Embiid is out. I think Paul George, like we looked at pre-show, wasn't on the injury report. So hopefully they figure it out. The Sixers are a tough thing to watch. Yeah. But as a Philly fan, you see the Eagles do so well. It kind of bounces out. Makes it okay until someone disappoints you in the early rounds of the playoffs, and we're back to square one.
Yeah. We had the good fortune of acquiring tickets to the Eagles-Steelers game. Not this coming weekend, but the following weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and my brother-in-law is coming in with his son from the West Coast. And my growing up, my best friend is a a huge Eagles fan. It's odd. Like I was a Pittsburgh fan. We grew up on Long Island, right?
Yeah.
He's an Eagles fan, so he's coming down with his daughter, who's also a huge Eagles fan.
That's
and like
awesome.
we're all gonna go together.
But I mean, talking about teams doing really well, Steelers are doing really well right now.
Smoke and mirrors, man. But
It's
I'll
just,
take it.
Hey, whatever works, right? I mean, they've been super defensive, and then
that defense is amazing.
Then this past week, they decided to just play all out, and they just
light it up,
and they had a shootout with the Bengals.
I know they need a second receiver to step up. First, I don't know if I watched the game, but one of the guys got clobbered by the linebacker, who's a very good linebacker for the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know how it wasn't like helmet to helmet. Like he got clobbered.
Yeah.
And it just, this is a big hole for the Steelers. They
Right.
need that second receiver. They drafted Roman Wilson, who like one of the better receivers out of Michigan. I think with high hopes, didn't work. Jefferson, not bad. Calvin Austin. I wish a guy like Pickens, as good as he is, had that work ethic and that sort of like attention to detail. Man, the sky would be the limit.
Yeah.
But not that Pickens isn't great, but just stop making the bonehead plays and statements and just play the game.
Yeah.
And then they break up Mike Williams, still not the guy. Like they just need that other guy.
And then again, same thing with like we mentioned before with Mike Williams is a great guy, but he has got two things on his back burner or against him. He's coming off an ACL surgery just last year, so that I always think you give him at least a year after.
You're right.
1 year they'll get cleared. Then the following year after that is when you can start seeing back to normal actual production and can trust him. And then he gets traded in the middle of the season as well.
Makes it harder.
So now he's just trying to catch his groove physically and trying to catch his groove in the playbook and with his teammates on the field. So it's a little tough.
I think between the really impressive play of Russell Wilson and Fields, to be honest with you, Justin Fields, between the incredible play, I think the defense when they're firing all cylinders is and then Najee Harris, like sort of revival, running with authority right now.
Actually looks like he's trying to run the ball, not like jog and like he's out of shape. He was one of those guys that he did really good in college.
Great.
Did okay his rookie season. They had some promise. He's like, think it'd be an uptick in production. Then he kind of went a little stagnant, went down a little bit.
I forget what it was. Was it a navicular fracture or he had something?
Yeah, he was dealing with something for like a little nagging thing for a little bit. Yeah,
and was never. I feel like never sort of got back up to that same level after that. And by all accounts, he's like this great guy, this workhorse of a guy. And you listen to him speak, and you get behind him. But I do find it interesting that this is a contract year. And look how well he's playing. That always like
interesting how that works out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So before we go ahead and get any deeper into our conversation tonight, we just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Virtual Orthopedics and Spine. From runner's knee to dog walker's hip to yard work back and laptop wrist, they have a doc for that. So find the right specialist for you at virtua.org/ortho.
So playing off the Long Island thing, I said my friend's coming into town for a game. Before we get into our topic, I'm reading an article last night in USA Today, and whenever you see like sort of a dramatic headline for sports injury, like of course we gotta go and read that. So there's a headline for a hockey player who died on Long Island, a high school hockey player that died on Long Island, and I'm like, oh boy, like, let me check this out, and I open it up, and it starts with Long Island, and then I'm reading, and it's like Nassau County, which is where I grew up. I'm like, oh, and then it says town of Oyster Bay, which is the town I grew up in is within the town of Oyster Bay, and I was like, uh-oh. And then it says Bethpage Ice Rink, which is my high school. Yeah. And so like I grew up, the ice rink is right across the street from the high school, and like it's in the Bethpage Community Park, right across the street, and like I've been there a million times.
Yeah. And
like I was like, holy cow. Then I start reading about like what had happened. It wasn't a Bethpage kid, it was a Massapequa kid who was a couple towns over. And the irony, it's sort of unbelievable, and like a little bit of so I don't know the details on how or why he died, but I guess he died on the ice. They tried to revive him, CPR.
Wow.
Kid's name is Connor Kaysen. A hockey player who plays for, I guess, like Sharks Elite Youth Hockey League. And they were playing a game, and this is like the really, really sort of like ironic and crazy part. It was a charity game that they was playing in, and it was a charity game for a young lady who had lived in Syosset, which is a few towns over in the other direction. Sabrina, I'm gonna mess up my name, so I have it now. My handwriting's that great. Navarrete, 19-year-old female, 19-year-old girl who had died in a car crash in NBA the year before. So here's the quote of why they were having this charity game. They created a foundation, or a foundation was created in her name to raise scholarship money and offer support to grieving parents whose children have died.
Wow.
And in a game to raise money for that, kid dies.
Wow.
Like, the irony. It's unbelievable,
That's
right?
terrible.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know. So, yeah, I have no idea what happened. We always say we don't have, access to the medical records. We truly don't. I don't even know the details.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a cardiac issue. I don't know if it was a head injury issue. I really have no details on what had happened. But very sad, and just like what incredible irony in that.
And then it's crazy because like it hits home to you, because I mean, I'm sure you've seen plenty of games or played games in that ice rink, and like everything goes all fine, hunky dory, and then one day something doesn't, and it makes
really
headlines,
bad.
And then you stumble across it, and everything's like hitting your hometown, which is really crazy.
Yeah, exactly. You're brought right back to it. Like yeah, exactly. I was there. I've been there 1,000 different times, and I didn't play ice hockey or anything. So, but just they're skating and
Right.
just crazy story.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very interesting and very unfortunate for that family, and just the dark irony, if you will, of just like an event for charity for that, and then something
to raise money for, or awareness and money for people who've lost children and the family loses a child. They're like, holy cow, man.
Right? That's a wild one.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
To kind of dive into our topic a little bit for the evening, we're back to a very popular name of NFL fantasy football, if you will.
First pick in most people's drafts.
I mean, he was arguably the first overall pick in most drafts, unless you were kind of smart and thought, like, I don't know, like all these injury histories and things going on, and you avoided them, like I may have in one of my leagues. But slick move. Although I went for Tyreek Hill, who's done nothing impressive this year either.
Yeah, you couldn't have seen that one coming up.
Yeah, but so like we mentioned before, there was a very cold blizzard game in Buffalo. The ground was probably rock hard frozen.
Sure.
So I think there's a little bit of environmental play here, if you will.
And sliding around.
Yeah, sliding around. And you think, when you see those snow games in the NFL, you're like, oh man, they're going to run the ball all over the place. They're going to run. And then you think someone who has Christian McCaffrey, oh, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
Big advantage, right? Until he gets shoelace tackles and slams really hard down on a flexed right knee.
Right.
And then I think he stayed in for the next play and tried to run and just started hobbling and went right down.
Yeah. So I saw a video. I was kind of in and out, and I don't remember if I was like just doing something or if I was dozing off on the couch. I was sort of in and out during that game, and I didn't actually see the injury. And
Neither did I.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, yeah. But go ahead.
And then I saw a video that was going around about the injury, and you see in his calf, it looks like reverberation. And I was like, how is that not his Achilles?
Yeah.
But I guess that wasn't the injury play. The injury was when he got shoelace tackled and landed on the knee.
And I think with that video you're referencing is that, so he goes out of the game, so naturally everyone's inclination is to replay the play that he stopped playing. Like, he gave himself up, he slid down. Right. And you watch that play, and his left calf does this weird thing, and he kind of collapses.
That's right.
And you're like, oh, man. But then a couple plays before that, whether it be the play, and I think it's funny you say that I was in and out as well. It's like usually 9 o'clock's around that bedtime for my son, and I end up falling asleep in his room for a little bit, then I wake up, and I catch like the fourth quarter of those late games.
Yeah.
So I had missed it, and I saw that he was out. So I saw the play. I was like, there's no way that wasn't his Achilles. And
right.
And I was like, it was like all, like I didn't see anything reported about his left leg. And then, after the game, it was like he had a right knee, possible PCL injury. I'm like, wait, what? Like, none of this makes sense.
Right.
So then you scroll a couple screen lengths of like Twitter or X, if you will, and then you find a different video of when he fell on the flex. And I was like, oh, okay.
Very classic style.
This makes a lot more sense, right? And interestingly enough, and ironic is that, during football season, we have a little bit of a strong fantasy football focus, if you will. We started the year talking about PCL injuries with Puka Nacua, who's also a very big name going into this year's fantasy football year in his sophomore season after lighting it up as a rookie, who had this PCL injury, was out on IR for an extended period of time, came back doing pretty well, had a couple flare-ups with it, but now Christian McCaffrey, we've talked about before.
Right.
Had the Achilles. We brought my good friend Sean on and talked about all Achilles tendon stuff.
That's right.
And he cleared that up, and took about 9 weeks to get things going.
Yeah.
Comes back for, I think, 2-3 weeks, and now potentially done for the year.
Right.
Because, we're on week 14 now. We only got about 4 more weeks left in the season.
Right.
Niners are on the bubble if they're going to be able to make playoffs. I think they're in
Very
a situation where they can make some kind of crazy algorithm work where they make it.
They might get in. Yeah,
They might get in, but I don't know.
Yeah. So first I'd say upon hearing how it happened, right? Shoestring tackle lands on his knee. Like the three classic ways that you can tear, that people will tear their PCL. One is like we'll call a dashboard injury, right? Like their knee is up, they're in a car accident, it pushes into the knee, or they go flying forward into the dashboard, and their shin bone goes back, posterior relative to the thigh bone, tears a PCL. Two, sometimes it's associated with hyperextension injuries. PCL can go or ACL can go. And then the last one is exactly this, right? Like when people, they say you fall on a hyperflex knee or a bent knee, if your toe is up, so your ankle is dorsiflex when that happens. And this is fodder for like the residents out there. This is like right out of the tests that we take and the boards and whatnot. And so if you fall in that position with your ankle dorsiflex, the way that you come down, you come onto your kneecap and you wind up fracture kneecap. But if your ankle is plantar flex, if it's down, so you come down kind of flat like this, then the whole shin bone translates posterior and PCL. So like those are the three classic ways that people.
And I mean that
sounds like that's what happened.
Exactly it. His shoe was stuck. His foot was plantar flex for the most part. Fell down, and he was definitely on hyperflex knee. Like it was definitely way greater than 90 degrees of flexion. So it was really hard contact there. Yeah.
So that's sort of the standard description of it. It's one of those weird injuries, just like Puka Nacua. So with Puka Nacua, we did a show on him, but when we talked about him before that first show, it was for his bursitis. And then he had a PCL injury in the first game, I think. And then he missed his time. PCL, like because we know about ACLs, I think the first thing you think gone for the year. You know what I mean? Not the case of PCL. Right. A little bit different.
A little different. It's kind of a blessing in disguise if you're not. If you had to choose what ligament to jack up in your knee, and PCL is not the worst offender, if you will.
MCL is probably first. Like if you're going to choose anything. And then PCL is probably second.
Yep. It's interesting too of just like the timeline because, like you said, it's a little different. And as we can reference Puka Nacua, there was no surgery. There was just some time off, some rehab.
Right.
And then he came back, and everyone was like, he's coming back. He's not going to do so great. And he came back and lit it up that first game he was back. And we're like, oh,
amazing.
Man.
He is. He's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. Like, just so good.
Yeah.
And then, it's kind of weird where someone with Christian McCaffrey's, his build, and I think just his overall season right now, you just got to take your losses and walk away with the season in one piece if you can. And, like...
If they make the playoffs, though.
Yeah, if he makes the playoffs, then that's a different story. And he can do what he did last year and find a way to, help out in the playoff stretch and make things a little different.
How much time did Nacua miss, approximately?
I think it was like four to
maybe less
6-ish weeks. No, I think it was 6+, something like that.
Yeah, because PCL injury, it can go in so many different directions, right?
Oh yeah.
Presumably, this is a isolated PCL. Otherwise, it's probably a very different story.
Right.
So just as PCL, is LCL is intact, is ACL is intact, is MCL is intact. And so typically you can have a grade 1, like kind of a sprain, and a grade 2, which we call more of a probably full-on tear or close to it, but no other ligaments involved.
Right.
Go down this road, grade 3, where like posterior lateral corner in addition to the PCL or additional ACL, additional injuries, whole different ball game usually, right? Assuming grade 1, grade 2, usually no surgery for those, right? And it's I'd say probably the fastest 4 weeks to get back. Probably the fastest, more like 4 to 6, being the kind of the reasonable time frame there.
With that said, coming back effectively.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like to have someone of Christian McCaffrey's caliber to come back in 4 weeks, I'm sure he could be better than most, but he's not going to be a difference maker.
Right.
And I just looked it up while you were going through that. Puka Nacua missed about 6 weeks.
There we go.
So,
right. Yeah. I mean, it sounds about right. It sounds reasonable if they can squeak in somehow. And we're going to talk about one of the other reasons why they might not squeak in just a few minutes.
Right.
Right. But if they can squeak in somehow, I don't think the season's lost. One of the big differences between an ACL tear and a PCL tear is the area in which, or the range of motion, or the amount of flexion in which the knee has instability. When you tear your ACL, it's more of an issue if your knee is straighter, or
Right.
it's really the biggest issue is when your knee's at 30 degrees of flexion,
Yep.
which it is often during
And-
sporting events,
Yeah,
right?
it lives there pretty much.
It lives there, right? And then with your PCL, it tends to be the most unstable, the loosest at 90 degrees of flexion.
Yeah.
That's when it's you or me sitting on a couch watching
Right.
that.
Like right about
athlete.
now,
Right.
we're at about 90 degrees flexion right now.
So they tend to be reasonably stable usually when they're performing their athletic endeavors. Like stairs tend to be a bigger issue for someone with a PCL tear
Yeah.
because you got to bend your knees.
Yeah.
Like these like things you wouldn't expect
Right.
if they remain symptomatic
Yep.
tend to be the issue.
Yeah.
Playing sports, not usually
Yeah.
too big of an issue,
Right.
oddly enough.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where we see these a decent amount because it's not an uncommon thing to fall on a flex knee, especially in the sport of football.
Right.
And like then we could play like what if you will, like if the game wasn't a frozen tundra, if it wasn't all that snow on the ground wasn't rock hard,
Right.
might be a different story.
Right.
And I think it's the PCL gets a different taste in your mouth. When you go like, oh, you don't need surgery. People are like, what do you mean? My PCL's torn. I have to get surgery.
Yeah.
It's like,
No
oh,
surgery?
yeah, it's like, but like you just
Crazy.
said, it's not really needed for these athletic endeavors, and you get everything strong around it, and then next thing you know, you can function pretty well.
Yeah.
And do your everyday stuff, or especially in the football world, you can do most of the things with no issues. I mean, look at Puka Nacua. He's doing it no problem for the most part.
Yeah.
Then, grand picture thing of how, football teams work. You're like, okay, well, Christian McCaffrey's out. He was out for the first 9 weeks of the season. We still did okay in the running game.
Sure.
We have this good guy, Jordan Mason, coming in.
Yeah.
And
no
then he
problem.
also goes down and gets hurt. And he's got I guess a pretty good high ankle sprain. And he's,
Right.
they're talking about officially placing him on IR. I don't think as of right now, Tuesday night, it's been official that he's been placed on the IR with his high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
They'll probably give it a week, see if any miraculous things can happen. But
Yeah.
we've talked about high ankles before.
Yeah.
There's a chance he might end up just getting surgery to get it fixed to kind of figure it out. And,
For sure.
And they're going to chalk him up for the season, put him on IR, and just wait it out. Then, get it fixed and, get him ready for next year and kind of, hope for the best. Or even short-term it, do the surgery and hope he can make a bounce back for playoffs if you really want to push the envelope just
Right.
to have somebody.
Yeah.
And even still with Jordan Mason, he also had an AC joint sprain early in the year too. So the running back room is just injury plagued, unfortunately, this year. It's just not.
Elijah Mitchell, proximal hamstring? I think proximal
hamstring.
Out for the year.
Out for the year.
Yeah.
In training camp, if you will. So like, the original backup to Christian McCaffrey got hurt in training camp. Christian McCaffrey goes out before training camp, is out for 9 weeks.
Yeah.
And then the backup who did really well is also out when you need him now.
Yeah.
And now it's
Guerrero?
Isaac Guerrero, I believe his name is.
Who looked really good when he got an opportunity. So, man, can they draft running backs? Can they find
49ers always find a way to get really good running backs. I think it's a credit to their coach Shanahan and that lineage, if you will, of coaches. Like Mike Shanahan was his father and Kyle Shanahan the son. And they run a similar offense. It's real big on the stretch play, which really needs a really good running back.
Right.
So they just look for the guys that fit their system. And they just happen to be all these guys who are on the depth chart at San Francisco. And if you put any of them in, you run your offense, they do really well.
Yeah.
And
Plug
they've done
and play.
it for years.
I
For
know.
years they've been doing it.
Yeah.
Before Christian McCaffrey was here, they had all the different, Matt Breida, Jeff Wilson.
Right. Raheem Mostert.
Raheem Mostert was in. All these guys do so well in that system because they
Right.
just run the ball really well.
Yeah.
So you plug and play and you hopefully hope for the best.
But when it's McCaffrey,
But yeah.
it's next level.
Oh, yeah.
right?
You
Like-
put
like-
McCaffrey and your team goes to the Super Bowl.
I know. Man, but they we'll see. As I imagine you as an Eagles fan, me to a lesser extent, but still as a Steelers fan, like with an outside hope, who knows? Like how good that team can be.
Oh, yeah.
Like if they're firing on all cylinders, maybe the favorite in the NFL.
And they're
It's a
starting
really good team.
starting tackle. Trent Williams is also out right now.
Wow.
Brandon Ayuk's out for the season after tearing his ACL.
Right.
And I think they've also lost some decent names in their defensive unit as well.
Of course, yeah. Just some years, right?
It's crazy. It's the world of football, right? It's just a violent sport, and there's injuries so high.
Yeah.
And then you get a team that's so talented on paper, like the San Francisco 49ers. You throw a monkey wrench in there, and you get like 5 of their good guys injured. That team's a whole different team, and they're at a sub 500 record.
Yeah. I don't want to put this bad, this bad juju out in the world for Chubb, but like what he has been able to do is such the exception. It's amazing. And we've talked about it before. Like these guys, it's such a violent physical sport, and they have to play at such a level that if there's even a slight little margin of error, you're at risk. One, you're not going to be as good, and two, you're at risk. You see it happen all the time. What happened to McCaffrey? The fact that he's able to come back, but he's missed a fair amount of time. He's dealing with these calf injuries, the tendonitis and whatnot. But so he stays in shape. He does everything he can, but he's not 100%. He's not in football shape, and he tries to get back. And maybe it's just bad luck. Maybe it was the frozen tundra. Yeah. But maybe it's just that's what happens. Well, the injuries stack up.
Well, even to go with that, right? Is like maybe this Achilles injury, he lost a half a step.
Right.
That half a step would have missed that shoestring tackle.
Right.
His foot never would have got tackled if he was a little bit faster with no injury, not ramping up.
Yeah.
And I think, with that being said, talking about the Niners too, Brock Purdy's been out a little bit for them with a throwing shoulder injury. So it just adds up and continually adds up of like all these things that happen.
Yeah.
But I think the discussion of, this missing time and not being ramped up at the right time in the season affects injuries.
Yeah.
I think that also goes to say of like something along with Brandon Ayuk,
right.
why he was holding out all camp for his contract. He gets paid and starts coming back, and he's only a few weeks in and tears his ACL.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like your body may have not been ready for all that activity in such a quick ramp up, which is where you see these ACL injuries. You go from not doing so much, you're ramping up all your activity, and then you do all these cuts, and something happens, and pop goes the weasel, and then there goes your ACL again. It's just an unfortunate cycle of events, and I think it happens a decent amount now, especially because NFL's a business. These players and athletes are holding out for their livelihood, for their families and their wealth.
I understand where they're coming from.
And I get it. It makes sense. Ayuk got a decent chunk of change for his, but were those X amount of weeks that he could have been at the facility training, but he was holding out? Yeah, I'm sure he was working out on his own, but
it's not the same.
Getting those repetitions in a football practice setup and not just with a trainer or some personal trainer or a strength coach or whoever, it's a world of difference when you have that timing and everything works out well in your favor, and then you're peaking at the right time. Like everyone right now should be in tip-top shape and you're performing at the highest level, and then if you get banged up in an unfortunate injury, it just kind of happens.
Fall back. How is Chubb doing it, man? Did you see that Denver defense was really, really good?
Oh, man, that game was crazy.
I know. There was an interception. Guys going to take it back, and you see Jerry Jeudy.
Oh yeah.
Trying to run the guy down and kind of get a hand on him, and then out of nowhere you just see Chubb come flying up out of nowhere and make the tackle.
Yep.
Right, my God, how is he doing that? How is he the fastest guy in the field already?
Right.
Some people are just superhuman. I mean, truly, truly amazing.
No, and it's crazy to see like someone like we've mentioned. I think we've talked about Nick Chubb a lot on this show too, of just coming back from 2 gruesome knee injuries like that, doing so well, and then doing those hustle plays like that. Like most people were like, okay, well that guy's gone. I'm not going to waste my time. But he still puts the effort in and goes hawks that guy down and makes a play. And saves it from a little bit more of an embarrassing loss of just a little bit of pride.
At that point, there's still a shot, right? And you're doing everything you can to give yourself a chance to win.
Yeah. And that game was just that Browns-Broncos game was just there was within 4 plays there was 2 60-plus yard touchdown bombs, and it was like, what is happening? People just running down the field. It looked like a video game. It was crazy.
Well, that's the other side of snow sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. Like the defense can't keep up with the offense, and if the guy goes, he goes, and like all you need is the pass to be there. And very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I see you got Taysom Hill here on our list.
So speaking of fantasy football, in the world of fantasy football, if you will, and all these unique athletes, Taysom Hill, the New Orleans Saints, went down this week. And that's a guy who came off of, another banged-up season where he got a chest rib injury early in the season, missed a couple of weeks, comes back, blows it up, and drops like 40-some fantasy football points.
One of the biggest weeks, of
the season by far. And
incredible.
He's a jack of all trades kind of player. He can play quarterback. He plays running back. He plays tight. He's listed as a tight end on the roster with a potential like a quarterback as well.
But he does everything.
He does a little bit of everything. That's why he's, in my opinion, I have him in almost every fantasy football league.
Oh, do you really?
Because I think he's just a wild card. He's like a joker in a deck of cards. Like he can do a little bit of everything, and he could have these great weeks.
Yeah.
But this
so
year,
if you need him, you got to plug in.
But this week this year he just got hit with the injury stick. He jacks up his ribs. I think he may have fractured his ribs. I'm not sure exactly what it was. And he comes back and then he gets a wicked tackle. He gets a helmet right to his knee.
Yeah.
Little hyperextension, kind of looks like a weird twist and whatnot. And then I was looking this morning, and it just says it's confirmed that he tore his ACL, and he has a quote-unquote additional damage to the knee from that tackle. So I would imagine there's a meniscus or cartilage issue as well.
Yeah. And he's not a kid, man. I don't think of him as being that old, but I think he's like 32 or so.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see that additional damage inside the knee. Some of that's already there. Some of that's a byproduct of the injury.
And I didn't dive deeper into this, what I'm about to say, pre-show in my notes, but I was reading one of the articles and said that he's come back from knee injuries before. So he may have had a history of this as well. So if this is the second ACL on that knee he has already done the other ACL and he's got more, like whatever the case is, it's like, now he's back doing it again. He's a little older.
Yeah.
He's a unique player where he's not like doing one thing. He does a little bit of everything.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, which is interesting. So it'll be cool to watch what happens going forward, if you will, with the Saints and Taysom Hill. I'm a big guy. I'm a big proponent of him. I'm a big fan of him, and I think he's a unique athlete, and I've always drafted him and have him in a bunch of leagues. But now it's just unfortunate because he's definitely done for the year, and on to the next one.
It could be the end.
Yeah.
If you put a gun to my head and say make a prediction, my gut is that he will come back again next year and do okay. Won't be the same player. And I don't know where he is in his contract. Obviously, that's also going to be
right. That's a big thing.
Part of the factor into that outcome. And then I don't even remember seeing this one happen.
Nope. No, it kind of popped up late on the injury report in their article. And I watched most of the Eagles game, but speaking of tight ends, Dallas Goedert went down with what's been reported as a knee sprain and is week to week right now. Some reports were saying that he might go on the IR for a couple weeks. Some reports saying he's week to week. The MRI showed good signs, but it's funny.
This is
It's one of those things where they do these cryptic talks, and I think it's the time of year now where things are getting more cryptic because playoffs are around the corner and people are playing a little bit of the long game of what's going to happen at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned it before, of like we don't have access to these medical records at all. And early on in the season, it feels like the NFL tells you a little bit of everything. Oh, this person got hurt in training camp. They're going to be out for the X amount of weeks. They're doing this. Yeah. Now it's like he's got a knee injury. He's out for week to week.
It's almost like hockey.
Yeah. Now they suddenly took hockey things, or the hockey protocol, if you will, and they're releasing nothing.
Yeah. And he may go on the IR with a sprained knee.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I guess PCL technically is on the list.
It's on the list of options.
We were just talking about it, right? But I think that the very strong favorite in this scenario is going to be MCL. But mild MCL, like week or two, would you really want to put someone on the IR? Especially while your team is this good?
Yeah.
But if it's a little more severe, then then 2-4 weeks.
Yeah.
So it stinks if he's in that category.
Yeah.
The good news is usually he'll bounce back and usually he'll be just fine when it's all said and done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But a little more worrisome if it turns into a 4 or 5 week injury and this is MCL.
And it's also, I guess it depends on, now I feel like one of these decisions might be more big picture thing of like Eagles are at least in a good position to potentially make playoffs. Hopefully all that goes well.
They still want the first seed.
Exactly. If you want to do that. But then it's like, do we rest a guy to get him primed and ready to be an effective weapon in the playoffs with no chance of like having him? Is having Dallas Goedert week 16, if you will, at 75% worth it, where you just wait till playoffs and you get him at 95, 100%? Like,
you're right. Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where the world of sports medicine and this pro sport business kind of clash of like what's going to be best for the organization and the athlete on top of it.
Right.
And it's not just like on paper, well, yeah, he could come back in X amount of weeks and he'll just be back. I'm like, well, why don't we be a little smart, give an insurance week, and then he's better, and then we have a less chance of injury and other things like that.
Absolutely. Outside factors are considered, right? Like, a freshman who has an injury gets treated slightly differently than a senior in his final season, or someone who's, primed and ready to take the jump to the next level.
Yep.
High school to college to pro, whatever it is. Like you have to factor that in. You don't want to put that athlete at risk. You're not doing that. You're trying to factor or work it on their best behalf on how to work it in. Yeah. Wherever their priority is, you want them to miss out the least.
Right.
While you can still try to get them there safely.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, without knowing, I feel like it's probably just an MCL. They're going to give it a week, see how it responds to treatment and rehab. Yeah. If he's looking good, maybe he misses 2 weeks and he's back in week 3. If it doesn't respond well and looks really bad, then like, maybe we do make the IR spot.
Right.
And I think, again, I don't know this at all, but I think putting him on the IR could make some changes for the depth chart and the roster so you could add somebody.
who I don't even know who their backup tight end. They had Zach Ertz and Data for a while.
It's Grant Calcaterra.
Okay.
And he was also decent. He's done decent this year. And Dallas Goedert was out for a hamstring injury earlier this year, too. And so, again, ironically, these guys that we've talking about have all been injured early on the season. They come back, and then they get injured again. It's just like, some guys who can't get out of the way of bad luck. Yeah. Quick little change of topic. Wanted to give a little shout-out. So, for the last, I don't know, umpteenth years, maybe not many, but since 2018, basically, I've been working down here, working out at awesome Pittman Total Tire facility, and been working kind of in the south of our group, sort of regionally speaking. Yeah. And then last year, pulled up more to the northern offices, and hence the rough drive and down there. Yeah. And so I've been taking care as a team doc for Glassboro right here for the last I don't know how many years, and this is the first year where I actually fully sort of made that transition, taking care of a team that's a little closer north, closer to the offices where I've been practicing. Congratulations to Glassboro on winning a state championship in football the year I left. The year you leave, huh? But yeah, pretty exciting. That's really crazy. I didn't know that at all. That's really wild. Good for them. And I guess they won in pretty dramatic fashion, like running clock. So up by I think it's 33 or 35. I think it's 35. Yeah, in the state finals, running clock. Yeah. That's so impressive. It sounds like they had a really good year. Good for them. Yeah, I did not know they're having that kind of success at all. For sure. Yeah. And that's just terribly ironic. The year you leave, right? It's just how it goes, man. Oh yeah, 100%. Try to do everything right. And then next thing you know, a year later, they crush it. Yeah, that's how. A similar story when I was in college. I was interning with the Philadelphia Soul with our good friend Jason Kopak. Sure. What happened was the year I left, Jason may have also left as well before he came back. And the year he left, they ended up going to the Arena Bowl and winning. And the 2 years before that, the 2 years prior to that, they went and lost or something along those lines. Yeah. And I went to one of those games as an intern. I think Jason went to his first year or whatever the case was. And it's like. And then you leave, and then they do really well. But I think they ended up going back, and they won the Arena Bowl, so Jason got his championship. Yeah. In fact, I think Brad flashed a picture of that when there was on our text chain, a little text going around. So Dr. Bernardini, flashed a picture like the Arena Bowl ring and whatnot. Like, could he get one of these? Yeah. The good old days, huh? So I think that just about wraps up our show for the most part. We're going to go ahead and follow these injuries as they go ahead. I think Jordan Mason will be one to actually watch. Yeah. Again, because he's not officially placed on the IR just yet. And I think teams have been, again, it's a long game in the end game of the season now. The 49ers are very much on that fence, I think, of being able to make the playoffs if all the right things fall into place. Right. And it's crazy enough, it's a talented team. They could do it if they just, the right people step up at the right time and they figure it out. I feel like the season started yesterday. And we're in the home stretch. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, we're week 14 or week 13, 14, whatever it is right now. Yeah. And we're about to hit, fantasy football playoffs, if you will, for even more talk of what's going to happen with that. And then all these big names. You don't want these big names going down right before your fantasy football playoffs because they can derail your season and your championship run, if you will. That's right. So before we go ahead and close out our tab for the evening, we're going to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Virtual Orthopedics and Spine. Runner's knee and dog walker's hip, they have a doc for that. Yardward back and laptop wrist, they also have a doc for that. Virtual Orthopedics and Spine has over 120 providers, over 20 PT and rehab facilities, and more than 25 surgical centers all across South Jersey. So find the right specialist for you at virtua.org/ortho. Neck of the Woods Brewing Company serving us up the best beer, and he's got some good holiday festive beers on tap now. Yeah. Ho Ho Coquito, which we were drinking tonight. The Stay in the Sleigh Frank that we had a couple weeks ago. The Ho Coquito. Incredible. Very good. Yeah. Oh man. And I'm not saying Frank's ever made bad stuff, but I think he's improved this Ho Ho Coquito from last year, from the years prior, and I think I like it way more this year. So whatever that means to you, come in the neck of the woods and try it. Just look at this crowd, man. And this holiday party's still rocking, and they're jingling and jangling, and they're having a good old time. There's kids running around doing all our kind of arts and crafts. I think we're doing some gingerbread houses soon here. Yeah. There's gifts all over the place. I think we're halfway to Sourfest. It just hit me. Yeah. Right? It usually doesn't in May? I think so. Yeah, I think it's already coming around the corner. 6 months in counting. Yeah, which is wild, right? And then lastly, our last shout out is to Timber Reel Productions and our guy Kyle over there helping us get all this stuff together, out to all our awesome supporters. So give us a like on YouTube and a follow on social media on our Instagram, and hit us up if you ever want to come on the show as a guest, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one and stay safe and enjoy the holidays.